size for me. Ladies and gentlemen, a stage show of this complexity requires a military-like schedule and timetable. Tonight we're actually doing pretty good. So, I've been asked to come out here and fill for 38 seconds. We're pretty close, hang on. Yeah, hang on. Got it, there we go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, your Secretary for Geek Affairs, Wil Wheaton.
What you didn't get to see was Paul turning to me in the wings and saying, "Where's your book?" And me replying, "Oh fuck, am I on?" That's the consequence of putting on a show that you enjoy watching. This is a book that I wrote. And insulting mysterious voice from the house that questions my ability to read. Prepare to be hoisted upon your own petard. You know, there's a lot of things that make me a geek, and I wasn't always comfortable with it like I am today. And I had to, in my teenage years, find places where my fellow geeks gathered, where the things that made us uncool in the real world didn't seem to matter and actually kind of brought us all together. One of those places I didn't discover until I was 16 years old, but it was at Saturday night midnight screenings of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I am going to tell you a story about the very first time I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show, provided I can find it within the pages of my book. Now, as a matter of fact, it was not at the New Art, but thank you for jumping ahead in the story, sir. In order to make this truly magnificent, I have requested musical accompaniment. Musical accompaniment from my good friends, Mr. Paul and Mr. Storm.
This is very well rehearsed.
So this is from the special edition of my book, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, available from Subterranean Press, plug commerce. My son's college tuition thanks you for your support. And it is called When You Dressed Up Sharp and You Felt All Right. The story actually started out as a one-paragraph introduction to a rant about how much I didn't want MTV to remake the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But after a few minutes in my text editor, it became a lot more fun just to tell this story. A few days after my 16th birthday, I lost my Rocky Horror virginity in a shitty little duplex theater in Van Nuys, California. Some of you may have thought it was at the New Art. Turns out you're wrong. I had wanted to see Rocky since I was 10 or 11, and my mom drove us past a marquee advertising a midnight showing every Saturday. Now, my parents couldn't or wouldn't, my memory is hazy in that specific detail, tell me what it was about. But anything that happened at midnight on a Saturday sounded great to me. The creepy lettering and the word horror in the title only served to increase my anticipation. I love you all. A week or so after my birthday, my best friend Aaron and I went to a place on Van Nuys Boulevard called Cafe 50s. These 1950s themed cafes were everywhere in the 80s. They were nearly as ubiquitous as frozen yogurt shops. Some people blame Stand By Me and Back to the Future for their popularity. But this particular 50s cafe was my favorite. Though I'd never actually been to a diner in the 50s, this one felt the most authentic, which means that it copied what I'd seen in movies better than anywhere else, and it had Del Shannon's Runaway on the jukebox.
And I wonder why she ran away, and I wonder where she was staying. My little runaway, run away.
We gorged ourselves on patty melts and chocolate shakes and vanilla cokes and extra fries with ranch dressing, while we talked about all those things that seem important after you discovered girls, like, you know, how to talk to one. Instantly convincing her to take an unforgettable trip with you to second base for 16 seconds of commitment-free passion. We argued about the time travel paradoxes in Back to the Future. Like you do. We confirmed through empirical evidence that quoting Monty Python to the 24-year-old waitress is not the best way to get a stand-up double when you're 16. Or ever. We admitted that Michael Keaton was a far better Batman than we had been prepared to give him credit for. Oh, hindsight, how you make Michael Keaton look so good. In other words, it was a Saturday night like any other. And as midnight in the restaurant's closing drew near, our attention turned toward the most important of teenage activities, doing anything but going home. Darren asked me, "Have you ever seen Rocky?" "Oh, God, I hate that stupid movie," I said. And the sequels are even worse. It's like, okay, we know he's gonna win, so why did we even come out and watch this stupid thing? No! I mean Rocky Horror, he said. Oh. I said, no, but I've always wanted to. It's playing across the street at midnight, he said. We should go. As quickly as I'd gotten excited to see it, I lost my nerve. You see, through the pre-Snopes grapevine that gave teens of my generation the truth about Mikey from Life cereal, oh my God, he totally died because he ate Pop Rocks and drank Coke. I'd heard about Rocky virgins being deflowered in horrifying ways. Oh my God, this guy I know went to see it in Santa Monica at the New Art, and they totally made him take off all his clothes, and they wrote virgin on his chest in lipstick. I looked across the table at Darren and I said in my most nonchalant voice, "Don't they do horrible things to people who haven't seen it before?" "Not really," he said, "but you know, if you're worried about it, we won't say anything." "Well, okay," I said, my confidence and excitement returning. Darren was 18, 2 years older than me. He was wise in the ways of the world. I knew that I could count on him to keep my secret shame between us. The waitress came back by our table. "Can I get you guys anything else?" Before I could demand a shrubbery and a phone number, with equal chances of receiving either, Darren asked her, "Could we get some slightly burnt white toast?" The waitress and I gave him the same curious look. He smiled back enigmatically.
Science fiction, double feature, Dr. X will build a creature.
20 minutes later, with burnt toast in my pocket and butterflies swarming in my stomach, I bought my ticket. We stood in a line that grew to about 24 people, and we waited for the theater to open. I made nervous small talk with Darren, talking a little too loudly about this great cast that I had seen in, I think I chose Huntington Beach. The doors opened a few minutes before midnight. We walked into a theater that TARDIS-like seemed bigger on the inside than the outside. Dirty blue and orange curtains hung on the walls. 2 aisles separated 3 groups of squeaky blue seats. The floor was painted navy blue. Blue seemed to be a recurring motif in this particular theater. And the floor was appropriately sticky. We chose seats on the aisle near the back. I should have been completely freaked out when a guy sat down a few rows in front of us and lit a cigarette in flagrant violation of fire code and the theater's rules. But being rebel adjacent excited me. Kind of the way a lot of you guys are feeling right now. The theater quickly got as full as it was going to get. It seemed that most of the audience members knew each other, especially the 4 people who huddled together at the front under the screen. This dude with long black hair and bright red lipstick emerged from the group and spoke to the audience.
I'm just a sweet transvestite. Transylvania.
I can't remember what he said, because as he began speaking, a hand tapped me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw the most phenomenally beautiful girl I had ever seen standing in the aisle. She had shiny black hair in a Betty Page cut, bright green eyes, full red lips. She wore a red corset that fit her perfectly. She bent over and she asked, "Are you a virgin?" I was. I was a virgin in every way that mattered. And at that moment, I would have pushed my mother in front of a train on its way into a lake of fire if it meant that this girl would separate me from this affliction. If I'd been standing, I'm certain I would have fainted. What? She extended one hand and caressed my face. She repeated, I said, "Are you a virgin?" Yes! Yes! I am a virgin! Her eyes flashed, and she made a sound kind of like a squeak as she said, "Oh, this is going to be fun." Before I could ask if this was the kind of fun that came with an instruction manual, she stood up abruptly and she hollered, "I have a virgin! A virgin!" Before I knew what was happening, she stood me up, had me repeat some oath I have since long forgotten, and she spanked me. Either. I remained fully clothed, but by the time maybe I at Loading Ready Run to load me their time machine. I remained fully clothed, but by the time my deflowering was finished, I was soaked through to the skin as everyone in the theater assaulted me with squirt guns and spray bottles. As quickly as it had started, it was over, and she disappeared before I could get her number or drop a Life of Brian quote on her. Like most people's, my deflowering was nothing like I'd hoped for or expected. But it was still magical. I loved every second of it. And before I knew it, she had vanished into the blackness of the theater. While the other regulars repeated similar rituals with a few other virgins in the audience, I looked at Darren. He looked back. That was awesome! Not only had a girl practically showed me her boobs, she touched my face seductively and spanked me, and she squirted me with a squirt gun, and she talked to me on purpose. Went down and the show began. I didn't know any of the lines, but I quickly figured out what to yell at Brad, and Janet. I threw my toast. I did the time warp. I watched the girl who'd taken my rocky virginity play Magenta. This is probably why Magenta is still my favorite character. 20 years later, when it was over, Darren and I drove back to La Crescenta in my slightly better than Patrick Stewart's Honda Prelude. I can't even tell you how happy it makes me that you know what that's about. Again, love you. We blasted New Order the whole way with the sunroof open and the windows down. I dropped Darren off at his house, and though I got back home around 3, I was so loaded with caffeine, sugar, and adrenaline that I didn't fall asleep until the sun came up. The movie was campy. And it wasn't especially good. But that wasn't the point. It was a shared experience. It was a place for misfits of all stripes to gather together once a week and fly our Transylvanian freak flags. For the next 2 years, Darren and I led an ever-growing group of our friends to Rocky at least once a month, sometimes more, at the Rialto Theater in South Pasadena. I haven't been since 1991 or 92, but those years and the film itself are a huge part of who I am today. They hold a very special place in my memory. I'm sure that the jokes have changed, and I'm sure that I would feel like a stupid old man. But just once, I want to go there